everyone, I'm Saugat Bastola.
My name is Aanand Thapa and we are from BBS first year, and today our topic for presentation is Los Pobres.
Los Pobres comes from Richard Rodriguez's autobiography, Hunger of Memory, The Education of Richard Rodriguez, 1982, a work describing the author's struggle as a Mexican American assimilating to life in United States. In Los Pobres, he describes a summer job that led to a revelation about personal and social identity.
We have divided this essay into two parts. Now I am going to present summary about Los Pobres. The author decided to take a summary job on his construction site suggested by his friend. He was motivated to take on the job despite the warmth of his friend saying he won't be able to do so. He was also planning to brag about the job to his father, saying he did know that real work is like. When he started working, he found out the job was going to be more difficult than he had expected, but not as tedious as his friend had warned him about. He actually liked the labor other worker who realized he was new to job just by his way of handling the shovel, using the pick and doing the labor. He was annoying when they tried to teach him the effective way to doing the things. He eventually realized he would never be the same as the worker around him. He would not learn what the real work meant to those 3 months. He was not bound to the job. For him, the sensation of extraction of and could be the soured. For his father or uncle working at the com- comparable job when they were his age, such sensation were to be fair. He observed the worker were as a divided group of people. They were no single type of worker. Some were rough and good natured while others were quick. He was embarrassed to admit he had not expected such a diversity. Nor did he expect to meet so many workers with college. Moreover, he met workers that were middle class American. They did not constitute society. There were not law progress his mother and land mentioned about. But later on, he saw a group of six Mexican people. Armenians means they were never introduced to the other men on the side. They knew little English and could rarely communicate with the contractor. They were pushed around by the contractor. The author felt sad for the Mexicans, but he also realized that he would not shorten the distance he felt from the lost progress with a few weeks of physical labor. He would not become like them. In the end of author father was right to say that the author would never know what real work is. Even if the author were to work in the factory, his long education would favor him. He could act as the person able to define by my interest. To unknowing the to speak up the challenge and the demand he would never knew what the Mexicans knew. The wages those Mexicans received for the labor were only a measure of their disadvantaged condition. The lack public identify their way depend upon the relative goodwill of fairness of their employers each day. The silence he stayed with the author. This was the time when he finally came face to face with lost province.
So you have now heard the summary. Now I'm going to use paraphrasing technique to retell the story and analyze it side by side so as to present our opinion on this subject. And Los Pobres is a Spanish word for poor and powerless people, and it is an excerpt from Richard Rodriguez's autobiography. So at the first of the story, Richard Rodriguez's friends comes to him with a summer job uh, at a construction site. He was in a dilemma whether or not to take the job, and so he decides, and in finally he decides to take the job in order to prove his father that he has had an experience doing the real work. he decided to take the construction job regardless of the warnings of his friends, saying that he had not had experience doing this type of menial job and it would be very difficult for him. So we can, so from this first part we can see that the author had a inner uh, ego to prove himself to his father that he also had experience doing real work. Here the real work means extreme physical labor and pain. So the author starts his job at the construction site, and the job was not as easy as the author expected it to be, but it was also simultaneously not as tedious as his friends had described it to be. And although he was doing the labor in a totally wrong way, he used to savor the pain he gained from doing such menial jobs. The other workers would easily recognize that he was new to the job and he was doing it wrong, and they tried to explain it to him, but he felt irritated when they tried to show it to him, and he was not keen to learn the efficient way to do such labors using shovel and using the picks. Rather, he enjoyed the pain he gained from doing it the wrong way. So this led him to realize that he would never know the experience of real work. Here the author writes, and I quote it, I would not learn in 3 months what my father had meant by real work. I was not bound to this job. I could imagine its rapid conclusion. For me, the sensation of exertion and fatigue could be savored. For my father or uncle, working at comparable jobs when they were my age, such sensation were to be feared. Fatigue took a different toll on their bodies and minds. So, from this part, we can see that even though author was doing same types of work at a similar age, you would never experience the real work his father and uncles used to do, because for them doing such labor was a compulsion. They had no other any alternatives. But for author, it was just a way to get him through his financial condition. He could savor the pain, while his father and uncle, the pain would be feared. Now, similarly, while working at the construction site, he got to observe the workers closely, and he found out the workers were not the poor and powerless people. Rather, they were a middle class family, and he admits that you had not expected to see such diversity within the workers. He was extremely amazed to see a plumber who would do abstract painting at his free time, and he was also surprised to see too many people who had a degree or who were studying currently and would pursue study later on. They were not surprised when the author had said that he had planned to graduate further in the study. And similarly, he in this moment he could not find out about the lost probes his mother had mentioned about, and he felt that the lost probes were not as powerless and as poor his mother explained it to him. But eventually he got into interaction with a group of Mexican people. They knew little American, and they barely knew English, so as to do their job. They used to be bossed around by the contractor, and seeing this, author felt sad for the Mexican people. He felt that these Mexican people were oppressed, and he could clearly see that the contractor were bossing them around and not paying them enough wages. Now he then realized that these Mexicans were anonymous people. They were alien in the society. They did not have any public identity. They had to depend on the goodwill and fairness of the contractor to pay them the wage they deserved. Now the author could feel that he was way ahead of this lost progress, because even though he was doing similar kind of work, his long education would favor him. He could fight for his rights, he could demand enough wages, and he could unionize with the people so as to demand and expect it from the contractors. Author finally concludes the topic by saying, I have taken these many words to describe its impact, only the quiet, something uncanny about it, its compliance, vulnerability, pathos. As I heard their truck rumbling away, I shuddered. My face mirrored with sweat. I had finally come face to face with Los Pobres. So, to So, as you know, any writing will have a purpose and an audience. In my opinion, the audience of this writing is the employers who give jobs to this kind of lost progress, and the purpose of this story is to evoke sympathy among the audience. And here we can see that author has used paragraphs to to explain similar kind of ideas so as to show connection between them. And here he is not just describing a story, he is also describing the realization his mind goes through. So thank you. So guys, that's all for the presentation on Lost Province. If you have any queries, suggestions or feedbacks related to the video, please comment on the section below, and thank you very much for watching the video.